Just another beautiful day. The birds are chirping, the seagulls are gulling it. The House of Representatives try to pass a bill to pursue criminal charges for people who boycott products from Israel. Oh, how did that get in there? Anyway, so peaceful. Oh, I wonder who that could be. Maybe it's a fan leaving a comment on my latest video. It's not those crazy YouTube commenters. I hope I don't get someone asking me to put a toaster in a bathtub again. Don't they know there aren't any outlets in a bathtub? Goofy little guys. Hello?
Sir, a second update has hit the Horror Stories subreddit.
Oh, god damn it! So last we left off at the Crow's Perch, we had covered a story about a player who had recently begun playing in a game with his wife. What started out as this player being really excited to play in a new game, as his wife had told him, there were a lot of really fun sessions they had with this DM, quickly turned into a bit of a nightmare situation. The Dungeon Master constantly bullied him, constantly targeted his character with insane in-game punishments, and denied him nearly every role-playing opportunity. The player continued to stay, despite all of this, because he said the good parts were good, even if the bad parts were really bad. And also, he was playing with his wife, and it was the first time in a long while that they were playing in a D&D group together. So, fair enough, I guess. In this story, something I got some flack for was criticizing the wife and the party's role in this story, because I felt that they were all just kind of watching this play out, and it really rubbed me the wrong way that no one stood up for the OP. Luckily, the wife stood up for him in the first update to this story, but apparently, the players also have some words to say in this latest update. And so, without further ado, let's gather up a murder and dive right into this second update. It's been a long and tiring week, but finally, we have resolution to all of this mess. First of all, though all of this was unfortunate, I do not blame anyone for wanting or needing a woman's only space. I have made it abundantly clear that I would not have joined if even one of them spoke up about being uncomfortable with me being there. I respect it, and if that were the main case, like I truly believe it was, I would have been perfectly fine declining if the DM had messaged me and told me that she did not want me to join. This was a lot of the players' first group with D&D, and so they admitted that they didn't know that I was being treated unfairly, but that they thought that I was just unlucky with the mechanics. They also said that they were so used to their group dynamic that it was easy to get tunnel-visioned when it came to including me in the story, and that they hadn't thought anything about it. To be fair, I don't blame this on them completely. I've never played with one group for 4 years straight, but I can assume you're so used to your dynamic, but when it switches up and someone else joins, it could be easy to tune them out, especially when I was having to sit out because the story revolved around them. At first, some of them thought that I didn't give the DM a fair chance to give me a story. The woman who played the orc said that the DM also changed her background, so that her character was raised by a cultist, rather than the monastery idea she had at first. She said she enjoyed the new direction, and it opened up a lot more angsty story for her later. We had a bit of a debate about this, but ultimately they agreed that if I myself wasn't having fun with it, that I should have been able to change the story or be allowed to leave. I also asked the group about the reasoning for letting me join. I read a lot of comments here suggesting that my wife may have asked the DM, or that the DM felt pressured, and I wanted to better understand if she felt like she had to take me in despite how she felt. I was told that when my wife told the group that she told me about their adventures and the compliments I gave, everyone, including the DM, was excited to hear that an outsider was invested in their campaign. DM asked if I wanted to sit in and watch, and then, when the new campaign started, asked my wife and the group if I would be interested in joining. I was told that in their private chats, she'd make occasional out-of-pocket comments, like, "Let's show 'em how it's done," and "I thought guys were supposed to be good at D&D," when I'd struggle in combat due to some of the extra difficulties placed against me. In the end, DM got mad after being confronted, disbanded the channel, and everyone got blocked. So now they're asking me if I'd run something for them. I personally am going to take a nice, long-needed break from this whole thing, but I won't be opposed to possibly doing something they can enjoy in the future. Hopefully, I can exceed their expectations. So, there we go. That's the full story. and good riddance to this DM. I guess I can see how someone could be so tunneled into the game that they don't realize one of their players isn't having a good time. But if what the players told the OP is true, I do still wish they stood up for him at the time. But hey, hindsight is 20/20, and it seems like he doesn't blame them for it. At the end of the day, a bad DM got exposed, and hopefully, after his break, the party has a new game to look forward to with a new DM. So, on to the next post. I am at a loss. Sorry if this is long or rambling. My DM loves to punish our characters. He likes to put us into questionable situations where we're punished for making bad decisions. We knew from the beginning we'd be the good guys, no stealing or murder hobos. That being said, my character started out as an 18-year-old teenage girl, a girl who had an awful relationship with her family as they were pressuring her to marry an older man. So she ran away with an NPC. That was her backstory. I let my DM know that she is a selfish character, but it's because she's grown up never having a voice. She has made mistakes through the campaign, but has desperately clung to her innocence and tried to do better. In one instance, she was promised to be spared by the bad guys if she abandoned her friends. Being 18 and never having experienced violence, she saved herself. It wasn't a decision made lightly, and she wept and apologized while making it. She did it out of fear. She had only known the players for a month. Of course, they managed to be safe and reunited after like 3 days. Even then, for years now, she's been punished for that decision. The other players have forgiven her. My dungeon master, not so much. Another instance, she refused to give up something precious to her. Because of that, my DM said she was being too selfish. Her best friend, an NPC, was then killed because of her decision. An NPC that she truly loved. When she returned to her family, they locked her in her room, barred her windows, and forced her to finally marry the man. I kept telling my DM that she would never love this man. She loved the NPC, but my DM told me it gave her someone to come back home to and move on with. I'll admit the guy was sweet, but my character still wanted nothing to do with him or her family. She begged her father to not do this to her, but my DM told me she was still being selfish. After the marriage, she essentially had an opportunity to abandon her husband, so she did it. My DM told me that she was again being selfish, and this time her family would pay for her selfishness. I explained that she would never come to love this man. She loved the NPC that was killed. She went to her family for help, and they still ignored her and forced her to get married. I asked if she was being selfish or finally prioritizing herself. What other choices does she have? She can't force herself to love someone. Her parents are using the marriage for political gain. Should she have just accepted the marriage from the beginning? My DM thinks so. Eventually, my character once again got mugged. Only this time, after fleeing into the woods, she was kidnapped. I've been playing another character, and 7 in-game years have since passed. My DM tells me that she is eventually going to come back soon, having spent the last 7 years being tortured in the woods. And she's going to be forced to face her family and see what her selfishness has cost her. Because apparently her husband has done something to her family? I don't even know how to play this character anymore. She is sometimes selfish, but she's never had anyone actually listen to her or put her first. Most of the selfishness she had was at the beginning. Now I feel like she's just being punished for not doing what my DM wants her to do. She just wanted people to stop crossing her boundaries, listen to her, and not use her as a pawn. Her entire symbolism is a bird in a cage who wants to fly. I told my DM that from the beginning. I wonder how to even play her. Her innocence is gone. She's almost entirely mad and destroyed by grief. She's absolutely depressing. I wanted her to get knocked down a little, but I feel as though her character is hopeless. Seeing whatever my DM has in store for her family, I personally think, against my DM's wishes of her begging for forgiveness and crawling back to that husband character, I honestly think she'd just start laughing and finally snap and tell them they got what they deserved. All she ever wanted was to live her life, not the life they chose, her life. My piece of advice for how to play this character going forward: I want you to take that sheet, and I want you to go to a different table, and you're gonna play that character over there instead. This DM clearly does not want you to play your character. They want you to play their character. You just happen to make the stats for her and write up her backstory. But when he's saying her character was tortured for 7 years in the woods, I'm getting a little bit of concern as to what this torture entails. What kind of torture do you think this DM is going to say happened in those woods for 7 years? Maybe the bandits just forced her to duo queue League of Legends ranked games with her until they reached Diamond. Honestly, after that, I get why you wouldn't want to play your character anymore. Look, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but I always get a little worried when I see stuff like this pop up in these stories. But let's get back to some critique about how this was actually run. I get wanting to run or play in a darker story that puts a character in an awkward spot where they might make a bad decision, and this player actively wanted to pursue a story in this style, but actively punishing her every time she plays into these situations is incredibly counterintuitive. You want your players to feel like their choices matter, and in a darker story, sometimes rewarding a bad decision could introduce an interesting dynamic where an otherwise good character now might do something morally dubious. But none of that is what this DM wanted to do, honestly. They're just gonna run rampant with their own ideas. And if I see a follow-up story where the OP says she was pregnant during this time, and the DM forces her character to take a kid to term, I'm going to go to this DM's house with a comically large pair of scissors and a jar of salt, and I'll let your wandering imagination once again fill in the blanks. Edit Crowe from the future here. It's like 1 a.m. as I'm recording this. Oh my god, I'm gonna yawn into the mic. Anyway, so the OP apparently was in the comments section of this one, and she's been pretty explicit that the DM hasn't been doing anything weird with her character. You know what kind of weird I'm talking about. I also think the comment section on Reddit got a little too crazy about this. Have you checked the local sex offender registry? He certainly has a thing for controlling young girls, forcibly marrying them to old men and punishing them when they disobey. I get being mad. I do it all the time. Hell, I even get paid for it. I just did it a second ago in this very video. But I'm inclined to believe that the OP is being honest in what they're saying, which then means this is just another classic case of a dungeon master that just needs to shut up and listen to their goddamn players. My point still stands though, that she needs to find a new game for that character, because whatever idea she had with her has been completely obliterated at this point. And with what you've said in the comments and in this story, you're clearly not looking forward to playing her again in the context of this campaign. That, or maybe you can have a serious conversation with your GM and talk to them about how you feel uncomfortable about how they're being portrayed. But if you don't feel comfortable with that level of confrontation, then I suggest telling other members of your party how you're feeling so that you can then go and talk to the GM together. You seem to really care about the character you made, and I know it won't be easy, but if this doesn't work out, you can always find another game. But in either case, I'm wishing you luck. So without further ado, let's move on to the next post. I'll preface by saying this DM was not a bad DM. 95% of the time, he was absolutely amazing. Played with the guy for years. Love him. These other 5%, well, here it is. So when DM initially formed his D&D server, he thought he'd run like 3 campaigns in the same setting, and things happening in one game could affect another. This sounded good on paper. In practice, it sucked major balls like half the time, as DM got into one of his writing frenzies and wrote himself into a corner or plot cul-de-sac. The minor issues with this were getting introduced to some awesome boss, only to discover they'd been dealt with in another campaign and weren't really our problem, which, okay, I guess. Like, feels a bit disappointing to go on a side quest, accidentally unleash the son of Asmodeus, only to discover he was the problem of some other party halfway across the world, and we can just get back to what we were doing. But the worst instance of this was the party. This thing was set up for months. When we arrived at a large city, some big crime syndicate meeting was about to take place, and wouldn't you know it, one of our player characters was the son of a crime boss. But we needed to prove ourselves first, so to build up a reputation, we went on a quest to claim a bounty on the heads of 2 baddies. Then GM got into one of his writing frenzies. So our quick and easy bounty hunt ended up becoming months of treading jungle, uncovering Yuan-Ti conspiracies, signing deals with sea monsters, rescuing Fey children, then discovering those two small-time thugs actually signed deals with devils and were monsters, and now we had beef with their patrons. And all throughout, we had to get back to the city to that very important crime meeting party thing. When we did, it was a setup once more. We proved ourselves and were so important that we got hired as guards to protect the bigwigs, the most influential criminals in the continent. And it turns out the captain of the city guard, my OC's love interest, is the son of one of the crime lords and is there at the party, in on everything. The tension is sky high. We assemble at the meeting hall as bigwig after bigwig show up, each with a retinue, character art, descriptions of how imposing they are, and then, for 2 hours, they discuss some sort of drug deal thing gone horribly wrong, causing a calamity in a city across the continent. For 2 hours, we stand there listening to NPCs we just met discuss the implication of another campaign's party's actions, one that contained 2 sixths of the players at the table. We have no input or effect on the decisions being made. We're just guards after all. The DM does voices at himself for 2 hours as I zone out. As the criminals decide to, do more crime or whatever, suddenly assassins break in, and we beat them up and chase them down. To add insult to injury, the leader of the assassins duels the captain of the guard in a circle of fire we can't enter, so we're just mopping up mooks. As cleanup duty ends, we head back and are informed that 1. We did a good job. Here's some gold. 2. We have no further business with the Syndicate, as the whole thing is another campaign's problem. 3. That assassin guy is a third campaign's problem, so we don't really need to follow up on that either. So, what the fuck was I just doing here? What was the point? I ended that session furious. What was all the lead up for? What did we even accomplish? What did I, not playing in that other campaign, benefit from all that lore? It was perhaps the single most infuriating session of my life. I like doing character voices as much as the next Dungeon Master, but if you catch me talking to myself for more than 5 minutes, you as players are obligated to take me to a rubber room with rats, and rats make me crazy. An interconnected world sounds amazing on paper, and you know this DM loved paper, but you need to make your preparation flexible enough so that you can accommodate for multiple parties playing in your setting simultaneously. I get that it's a tough ask, but there's a reason why Westmarch's style games aren't the default state of play. It's kinda tough. You need to make sure that your party are facing different conflicts, or combine their parties if they're facing off against the same antagonist. The big bad evil guy could be fighting Party A, until suddenly the Stone Cold Steve Austin theme plays, and Party B comes in cracking beers against their skulls, right before hitting them with a steel chair. This is such a cool idea, and it sucks that this Dungeon Master couldn't pull it off. But to my viewers, I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever run a game like this, or a Westmarch's style game before? And how did you balance having so many potential players on the field that could change the game world at a whim? Let me know how it went in the comment section down below as we get into our last story. I've joined a few Discord servers where people post some one-shot/campaign ideas, gather a few players, and play. Simple enough. I wanted to play a one-shot to have fun and to see other DMs' styles. Sometimes you learn something cool to implement in your own group. Not this time though. The one-shot was advertised as a group of adventurers, level 5, being recruited to bring down a dragon terrorizing a city. The DM asked us to send him the player characters so he could check them out to see if they were okay. I sent him mine and waited for feedback. Radio silence. The game was posted on Thursday, expected to play on Friday, so there wasn't really much time. Friday came by, and still had no news. He wasn't answering the original post either, so I thought it was off. I got a reply 10 minutes before the expected start. It's okay. That shit got me going already, but I went with it, fully expecting a shit show. Only 3 people signed up. So when I joined the voice chat, The DM was talking about making an NPC just to support us, because the one-shot was balanced for 4 players, and it was meant to be hard. He also talked about him preferring to play as a player character rather than a DM, and that his favorite PC was a quote-unquote anarchist bard. I asked what he meant by anarchist. He replied that he tries to make everyone's life miserable. God, I wish I was lying about this. So I told him that in a cooperative game, he chose to be a dick to the rest of the table. Cue sarcastic laughter to pass it off as a joke comment. After that, we started. We were waiting to get into a city, and the guards weren't letting anyone in. I asked if we could talk to one of them to tell us what's going on. He ignored me and went straight for his DMPC. Full anime waifu, by the way. He even posted an image to show up, coming out of the city, grab us, and help us get in. I mean, at this point I knew the story and roleplay were non-existent, so I just rolled with it. At least I expected a challenging combat. As soon as the DMPC shows up, one of the players, the fighter, goes full gooner mode with this chick, the whole creepy voice and everything. Hello, princess. I know you're playing a DMPC, but what if I put my D in your P? What if instead of Dungeons and Dragons, we called it Dungeons and Freaks? And instead of exploring dungeons, we explored each other's bodies. Then he immediately tries to duel this DMPC. The only plot hook we had, and this dude's trying to kill her. At this point, both me and my character are eating popcorn because it just keeps getting better and better. Both the player character and the DMPC traded blows, but the DM hurried the scene along and got us into the city. But first, we had to prove ourselves worthy of helping the DMPC with the dragon. So the most obvious path of action was to try to hit a target dummy. Yes, I kid you not. That was the test. The dummies had 20 AC, by the way. I rolled once, missed, and waited. The fighter rolled like 20 times, eventually getting a hit in. All this time, the DMPC was laughing at how weak we were. So I, trying to be cheeky, said that maybe she should show us how to do it, since she's supposed to be almighty. As you can imagine, the DM couldn't resist the challenge, and went for it. The DMPC had like plus 12 to hit, so it was pretty much a given. 2, 4, and a natural 1. We were howling. Peak cinema. The DM, clearly frustrated, skipped the scene and took us to the DMPC's house, where she lived with her father. Her father, frail as he was, gave us magic weapons with broken stats. My Warhammer went from a D8 to a 2D12 and plus 6 to hit. After that, it was the turn of the cleric, the third player. He barely spoke, and when it came down to the fighter, he had to do some dumb shit. So he tried to wrestle the old man. Strength check, nat 20. The NPC is dead. The player couldn't believe it. He didn't get a broken weapon because of this. The DMPC had no reaction to her father's death either. She just said, well, I guess the quest is off. I told her that maybe in the dragon's hoard there was some ancient magic powerful enough to bring back her father. I wasn't gonna let him bail on us that easily. I was enjoying this way more than I expected. I was like a tourist in a wildlife tour, just enjoying nature in its most pure form. The DM says that the father woke up and with some magic opened up a hole beneath our feet. We had to do a dex save. I was a paladin, my dump stat is dex, still I managed to pass. The other two fell down a bit, but managed to grab onto something. At the end of the hole, there was a cave where we could hear heavy breathing. Well, straight to the dragon, I guess. No one could see because it was dark, and no one had dark vision. So I threw a torch to illuminate a bit. We still couldn't see anything. The DMPC, from the top of the hole, formerly her house, mind you, asked us if we needed help getting down. I said yes, so of course she went full ninja. Wall jumping, grabbing the big-ass human in heavy armor like it was nothing, and brought me down to the cave level. The same with the other two players. Once in the cave, again, we could barely see because of the torch. So the DMPC did some DMPC magic and gave everyone dark vision. Because, of course she did. As soon as we touched the ground, the cleric disconnected and wrote in chat, light went out. Rest in peace. 1 down, 2 to go. The DM describes a long corridor before us, filled with traps.
So, we can see the traps?
Yes, they're natural traps, like stalactites and stuff. Oh, okay. Still, I'd like to do a perception check to spot the safest path to dodge everything. He tells me that I pass, and I perceive 3 giant bats, one of them flying straight at me. He proceeds to say that the bat hits me with advantage because I'm surprised? I remind him that he just told me I saw it coming.
It was already on top of you when you saw it.
Sure, whatever. Let's go into combat. The fight was easy. We proceed to a cave opening where we can see some dragonborns, wearing magical armor and weapons. I asked if they saw us. He said they didn't, so we took the chance to short rest to get full health for the upcoming fight. When we finished, the DMPC vanished with a stealth check to go forward. One of the 3 dragonborns drops dead, like one shot. I told the fighter, alright, let's go in. And as soon as I stepped into the opening, I got told to do a dex save. The DM rolled 8d10 worth of damage. Remember how we're level 5 and got hit with a breath weapon? 60 damage. Thankfully I passed and only took half. Still, I had 44 HP max. So I asked the DM why I got instantly targeted while a friend of them just dropped dead in front of them.
They didn't notice the dead dragonborn. They only heard your heavy armor coming in.
Right. Suddenly, the DMPC reappears to drag me behind a rock and heals me. Because, of course she did. The DMPC asked me why did I do that. I told her I guessed she went in, so I wanted to help her out. By this time, the fighter lets us know he'll have to leave soon because... reasons. The DM tells him it's okay. We're almost done anyway. Almost done. We didn't even get to fight the dragon. The DM tells us that we peek out of the rock and see this, and posts a picture in Discord. It was Tiamat. Not an avatar, not a spawn or some shit. Tiamat herself. Just chilling under a random house. The game ended right there. I said goodbye and logged off. Holy shit, I was so in awe with all this. I'm extremely grateful for the groups I play with regularly, actually decent human beings, and I'm really sorry for all the people having to endure this on a daily basis because they can't find half-decent people to play with. TLDR, Gooner/murder hobo player, overpowered DMPC, and a DM drunk with power. We're expected to fight Tiamat at level 5. More red flags than the USSR. Wow. Honestly, there isn't much else I can say here. This was a train wreck, the likes of which I don't think I could dare stomach for more than 5 minutes of. And this player somehow managed to make it through to the end of the session without having a brain aneurysm. I don't know if this makes the OP a hero or just a glutton for punishment, but it got the rest of us this story, so I'll count this as a win in my book. And that's where we're going to end today's stories. And if you like today's stories and you'd like to see more of them, then please consider subscribing to the channel and liking this video. A special thank you once again to my patrons. And I will see you all next time, as the crow flies.